on its exports. It's the highest imposed among African nations. The tariffs will take effect on the 7th of August. They will target South Africa's key export sectors from automobiles to agriculture. With industries at risk, Pretoria is scrambling to respond. South Africa has rolled out emergency measures, including an export support desk to help companies to find alternative markets in the rest of Africa.
The world's most powerful economies are quietly being redrawn. For decades, technology flowed through one predictable chain: innovation in the West, manufacturing in Asia, and raw materials from Africa. But in 2025, that map is fracturing. A new corridor is rising between Africa and Asia, linking the minerals that power the digital age with the factories that turn them into chips, batteries, and machines. The result: a $45 trillion global shift that could redefine who controls the future of technology. From the deserts of Namibia to the ports of Kenya, from Shanghai's chip foundries to Lagos's coding hubs, a single question now drives boardrooms and governments alike. Is the age of Western supply dominance ending? It began quietly. When the world raced toward electric vehicles and renewable energy, demand for minerals like cobalt, lithium, and rare earth elements exploded. Yet more than 60% of these materials come from African soil. For years, they left the continent unprocessed, sold cheap, refined abroad, and sold back at a premium. But that model no longer fits Africa's vision. Zambia and the Democratic Republic of Congo signed landmark agreements requiring local refining and regional processing. Zimbabwe moved to ban the export of raw lithium. Namibia imposed similar rules for uranium and rare earths. The message was clear: Africa would no longer be the world's warehouse. It would become a partner in production. Within months, delegations from China, India, and South Korea arrived, offering technology, financing, and training in exchange for long-term cooperation. Suddenly, the old trade lines shifted south and east. In the port city of Dar es Salaam, cranes now unload Chinese-built refinery components. In Lusaka, Indian engineers train local teams on battery assembly. Across the Congo River, South Korean investors are setting up cathode plants that will feed Asia's booming electric vehicle market. The world barely noticed at first, but inside the numbers, the scale is stunning. If even half of Africa's planned projects succeed, global mineral flows could reroute by trillions of dollars within a decade. While Western capitals debated carbon taxes and supply chain resilience, Asia moved decisively. China's Belt and Road corridors now stretch deep into the continent, connecting inland mines to modern ports in Mombasa, Dar es Salaam, and Luanda. High-speed freight routes carry copper, cobalt, and lithium not to Europe, but across the Indian Ocean to new gigafactories in Malaysia, Thailand, and coastal China. India, too, is stepping in through what Delhi calls the Global South Tech Bridge. Indian conglomerates are opening industrial parks in Nairobi and Addis Ababa, where local engineers co-design battery management software and 5G components. In exchange, African nations gain data centers, vocational institutes, and digital payment infrastructure connecting millions to formal markets for the first time. South Korea has joined the race, signing agreements with Nigeria and Ghana to assemble semiconductors locally, training a new generation of African technicians. The vision is shared production. Africa provides the resources and the labor force. Asia contributes the machinery, know-how, and logistics. Economic analysts estimate that Africa-Asia tech trade could exceed $45 trillion by 2035, covering everything from solar cells to microchips and AI servers. That figure is not fantasy. It mirrors the combined output of today's entire U.S. and EU tech markets. And in boardrooms from Tokyo to Johannesburg, one phrase keeps appearing in reports: diversification through partnership with Africa. This is not charity, it's strategy. Asia needs reliable supplies to keep its factories running. Africa needs industrial partners that treat it as a co-creator, not a resource pit. Together, they are quietly constructing a new pillar of global technology. In Washington, Brussels, and London, the alarm bells are finally ringing. Analysts inside major think tanks call it the quiet reordering. For decades, Western economies relied on a simple formula: control the technology, outsource the production, and import the resources. That model is now breaking apart. not because of war, but because of new partnerships the West can't control. When the United States sanctioned Chinese tech exports in 2024, Beijing quietly doubled down on Africa. China's industrial policy shifted. Instead of hoarding supply chains at home, it began exporting the factories themselves. Entire modular chip assembly lines, solar panel production units, and EV battery plants were shipped to Africa, built under joint ownership agreements. And that's when the numbers became impossible to ignore. In just 18 months, Africa's share of global tech mineral processing jumped from 3% to nearly 15%, a pace no Western country can match. The European Union tried to respond with its so-called Raw Materials Act, offering subsidies to lure production back to Europe, but it was too little, too late. Africa and Asia had already locked in contracts that run until 2040. The shock is rippling across financial markets. Western hedge funds now report massive outflows from traditional tech giants into new South-South ventures. Even Tesla and Apple are rumored to be negotiating with African governments to regain access to battery supply lines they once ignored. A senior European diplomat, speaking off-record, admitted, "We thought Africa would always export raw materials. We never expected it to build the machines that power the future." Across Africa, the mood has shifted from dependency to confidence. In Lagos, a supercluster called the Silicon Savannah now hosts 200 AI startups, partly funded by Singapore and Dubai. In Rwanda, drones built with South Korean microchips deliver medicine and supplies to remote towns. In Ethiopia, China's biggest semiconductor company has partnered with local universities to train engineers for chip design. These are not small wins. They represent a new economic identity. For the first time in modern history, Africa is not exporting its future. It's building it locally, with allies who see its potential. Meanwhile, trade routes once dominated by Western shipping firms are being redrawn. New high-speed cargo networks link Africa's Atlantic coast to Asia's Pacific ports in under 15 days. Blockchain-based trade settlements now bypass the dollar entirely, using digital currencies backed by gold, copper, and lithium. And while the West debates how to de-risk from China, Africa and Asia have already de-risked from the West. The transformation isn't just economic, it's philosophical. For generations, Africa's role in global trade was determined by others. Now, for the first time, it is writing its own blueprint for industrial sovereignty. As this new reality takes shape, global newsrooms are racing to catch up. Pundits call it a tech realignment. But to millions of Africans and Asians, it feels more like a long-awaited correction, a future where innovation no longer depends on the approval of a few powerful capitals. From the boardrooms of Seoul to the copper belts of Zambia, one truth has become undeniable. The future of technology is no longer Western, it's multipolar. And the center of that new map runs straight through Africa. Because while the old powers debate, Africa and Asia are building. And by the time the rest of the world notices, it might already be too late.